everyone, I wanted to make a new video on anxiety since I have gotten to know it rather intimately in the previous year. I am doing fine now. I have been doing quite well for the past few months, and I was just getting progressively better over the past several months. I suppose it all started about a year and a half ago, and then got very serious maybe half a year ago. So I had a bit of a dark night of the soul, I suppose. A time where I was very, very committed to introspection. I actually started to do, shadow work. I started doing shadow work, and I almost instantly regretted doing it. I started it because it became very clear to me that it was something that I needed to do. Definitely almost instantly regretted it. It was a very, very intense experience. Anyway, I'm not going to go over all of that. Everyone has their own personal journeys. I just want to go over the parts that I think would be most helpful for people who struggle with anxiety and or panic attacks. There was a time where I was unknowingly addicted to caffeine. I was being an idiot, and I thought that this boba tea was like a fruit boba tea. I didn't know it had black tea in it, and I was drinking this like 4 times a day. Anyway, I got really, really addicted to caffeine. I had also twisted my ankle around this time. It was a pretty hellish year. The previous year was a hellish year for me. I had also twisted my ankle around this time, so I had actually taken legal edibles here, for the first time because of the pain. And that was a huge mistake because I took too much, of course, because I'm a noob. And I had a really, really bad experience, and it lasted for like 3 days long. And I already just had so much lingering burdens, festering, disgusting, rotten stuff in my mind that was just constantly bringing me down, like all the time, that needed to be dealt with. So this kind of all came to a head one day when I was in the shower, and I felt like I couldn't breathe, and I started having this really bad panic attack. So the caffeine, of course, was exacerbating some of the anxiety symptoms, I suppose. And I guess since I had not had such a serious panic attack before, I'd had palpitations before from caffeine, which is why I had quit in the past, because I'm very sensitive to caffeine. But I had not had such a serious panic attack before. And of course, I developed health anxiety, so I was like going to the doctor constantly. I was constantly convinced that something terrible was happening to me. So I don't know how much of it was the caffeine, how much of it was my mind. I'm going to go ahead and say that most of it was my mind, and only some of it was exacerbated by the caffeine. So I was very convinced a lot of the time that something terrible was going to happen to me, that I was going to die. I was very, very, very aware of my mortality at the time. Like frightfully, intimately aware constantly of my mortality. And what I came to realize, I went through a phase where I was like, I'm going to master this, and it was just, I'm going to try every breathing technique, I'm going to try every acupressure thing, I'm going to go do acupuncture, I'm going to take these vitamins, I'm going to do this and that. I was going through panic attacks regularly, had anxiety constantly, and so I just got on the plan of fixing it. And so I came to a place where I was managing, I was kind of managing, but in a way I wasn't really, because I was very, very dependent on so many things. So I was convinced that if I didn't do set exercise, if I didn't do said breathing technique, if I didn't take said vitamin, if I didn't take said thing to help me sleep, that a panic attack would happen to me. And then, you know, I don't know, that would be terrible, I guess. So there were so many things I think that were in my way. I think the thing with managing anxiety is really firmly about managing your mind. If you convince yourself that it's something that's happening to you, like just happening to you, and you're like, oh my God, why me, then it's going to be very difficult to overcome. Because what I came to realize over time was that it wasn't something that was just randomly happening to me, that I wasn't just suddenly randomly being punished by my body for no reason. There were all these tiny little choices that I was constantly making that I was just not aware that I was making. So I was basically choosing to live in this state of just hyper awareness. And so what I realized is there's a path. It's basically hyper awareness, then fixation, and then panic. So I was choosing to live in a state of hyper awareness. Now, what leads you to live in a state of hyper awareness? Well, that's going to be your thoughts. So you are endlessly engaged with fearful thoughts. You're engaged with maybe past trauma, past traumatic memories, self-defeating thoughts. I mean, you can think to yourself, oh my God, I'm damaged now and I'm never going to get fixed. I did something wrong. I fucked up my brain somehow. I fucked up my chemistry. It's my hormones. Something happened to me and now I'm broken and I'm just not going to get fixed. I'm not going to get repaired. This is me forever. So thinking things like that, or again, dwelling on past trauma, past wounds, past hurts. You are in this state of constant fear. So that state of constant fear puts your body into this state of hyper awareness. You have convinced yourself that you need to be hyper alert, hyper aware to perceive danger. So you are making this choice to be hyper alert, hyper aware. And now in this hyper awareness, you become completely aware of your breathing. You become completely aware of you become very aware of your heartbeat. You become really, really acutely aware if you have cold. And in this acute awareness, you start to freak out about your breathing. Oh, I'm not doing it correctly. My posture is affecting me. I'm not getting enough oxygen. Or you become obsessed with your heart. Oh my God, why do I feel palpitations? Why is my heart palpitating? Something's wrong with me. And then you Google everything. So you start in a state of hyper awareness, and then you choose something to fixate on. If you have health anxiety, you're going to fixate on something that you consider a symptom in your body, which could just be a normal thing that's happening to your body, but you're going to fixate on that. If you have some other type of anxiety, you're going to fixate on something else. Perhaps you're going to fixate on some doomsday sort of thinking, like, okay, this is it, I'm fucked, I'm never going to get better. There's something chemically wrong with my brain, and now I have to take drugs, otherwise, and I only have to take drugs to manage this because I'm not getting out of this, you know, kind of these very doomsday thoughts, and you'll fixate on that. So you go from hyper awareness to fixation, and now this fixation is something that's going to lead you into the actual panic attack. So you're hyper aware of your breathing, and then you're fixating on your breathing. Oh my God, I'm not getting enough oxygen. I'm not getting enough oxygen. I'm not getting enough oxygen. I can't breathe well. And then it turns into an actual panic attack. Or you fixate on the way that you're hyper aware of your heartbeat, you're hyper aware of your body. You fixate on that, and then, oh my God, my heart is beating so fast. Something must be wrong. Triggers panic. My hyper awareness was so high that I could acutely hear so many sounds. And we are surrounded by sounds. We're surrounded by so many mechanical, electronic devices. There are sounds, tons of annoying little sounds everywhere all the time. And once you become aware of them, They are very, very annoying. So I became acutely aware of these sounds. And then, you fixate on those sounds. And then it becomes, oh my God, some people kill themselves over tinnitus. Oh my God, some people say that tinnitus can't be cured. And really, I think in most cases, it's just you are literally hyper alert, no matter what the cause is for it, you're hyper alert, hyper aware of all the sounds everywhere because of anxiety. Even if the sound is, your ears are trying really hard to listen because you actually did have some kind of hearing damage, or your ears are trying really hard to listen because you have an infection, or whatever the cause is, you are trying really hard to hear, and your anxiety is going to keep you in that state of trying really, really hard to hear everything around you. And that anxiety, if you keep staying up there, then you're going to keep hearing it. If you fixate on the sounds, you're going to keep hearing it more and more and more and more. So I did have like a hyper awareness of sounds for a long time. And yes, that's also now gone. I barely notice like palpitations anymore. I don't fixate on them. I barely notice them. I do sleep. I sleep very well finally. Sleep was very, very hard when I had bad anxiety. Very, very hard. So I'm sleeping well. My hearing is normal. I'll sometimes pick up on some annoying noise, but I just let it go. I don't fixate on it. And it doesn't become a huge issue. I can still sleep. I can still relax. So anxiety can lead to such a plethora of symptoms, and then you can fixate on those things. But they're just really normal bodily reactions due to your hyper alert state. And the more you fixate on them, the worse that you will feel. And then it becomes this, this awful cycle that you get stuck in. But what I realized was, the important thing that I realized was, my mind was the one that kept trying to solve the issue with vitamins, endlessly researching, trying to cure insomnia, researching tinnitus, these breathing techniques and these things that I became very fixated with and dependent on. And my mind was trying to solve all these problems. But in reality, my mind was the problem in and of itself. The mind is the problem, and the mind is the one convincing you and sending you on all these goose chases and sending you down all these rabbit holes to solve the problem that the mind is in and of itself. So it's actually a very illogical waste of time journey, and you're going in circles over and over and over again. And you have brief moments where you think, yes, I'm finally better, but you're not. You're just briefly convinced that you're better, and then something else will start up again, and you will try to find some new way to fix yourself. But really, the way that I finally started to sleep was just what I call dropping the mind. I literally just had to let go. I had to stop fixating on all these thoughts that were keeping me in the state of hyper alertness. And I'm going to say that therapy is good. Becoming aware of the things that are holding you back is good. Becoming conscious of your demons is great. But at some time, the introspection, the constant analyzing, the constant staying in your mind, it has to stop, and you just have to drop it. It's like this wounded part that you keep trying to fix and repair and repair and repair, but that process never really ends. There's always a deeper and darker cave that the mind can lead you into, always a deeper mystery, always another wound, always another hurt. When you're in the mind, it's very easy to get hurt. When you're in your ego, you're basically a walking wound. So at some point, you just have to drop it, and you just have to let it go. Because if you carry your past with you all the time, and the mind is literally memory, if you're always carrying your past with you, it's just going to get heavier and heavier. You're going to feel older and older and older. And at some point, it's too much of a burden, and you just can't move forward anymore. So at some point, you really just have to drop it. And I know that sounds very simple, drop the mind, but it's always going to try to justify its existence to you, like, you know, let's go solve this problem, or let's go fix this issue. But in reality, one of the most important things you can do is literally just let go and let it go. So I was finally able to start sleeping when I just found quiet in my mind, and I found that quiet, and I tried to stay there as much as possible. And so I stayed there more and more, and my sleep finally started to regulate, which of course started to help me with everything else. And little by little, I learned that I wasn't going to die if I didn't fixate on my heart rate. I wasn't going to die if I didn't fixate on my breathing or whatever other symptom that I thought I had. So I learned to just stop fixating, stop being hyper aware of things. And the less I fixated, the more I just tried to stay aware whenever I thought I was going through something. The more I just tried to stay centered and aware of it and not let myself get fixated on it, the more that it would pass. The less that my mind would bring it into my awareness. And so the less that my mind brought it to my awareness, the more relaxed I was able to feel. So the opposite journey, leave it alone. So if you have hyper awareness and then fixation and then panic, the opposite of that would be relaxation. And then after relaxation, it would just be trust and letting go. So, and it's not something you can make yourself, it's not something that you can do with your mind. If your mind says, you must relax, you must sleep, if you do it from your mind, it's absolutely not going to work. You must sleep, you must relax. Oh, if you don't sleep, then your health is going to get so much worse, and then the tinnitus is going to get worse, and your mental health is going to get worse. So it's not really something you can do from your mind. It's to relax, you really have to let go of it. And you have to let go of the thoughts that you're fixating on, because that's really where it starts. And, stop fixating on the thoughts that keep telling you that something terrible is going to happen to you, that are constantly looking into the future in fear. I need to prepare for this so that, I don't die. I need to prepare for this so that, something terrible doesn't happen to my kids. I need to prepare for this, and I have to have the perfect diet, and I have to have the correct exercise, and this and that to keep my health at optimum. If you live there obsessively, you're just going to stress yourself out more and more, and you're not going to be able to let go of your anxiety. So really, it's a process of dropping the mind, I would say, is what really helped me overcome my anxiety, and I have been pretty much free of it now. I was just progressively better and better ever since I started to learn to do that and learn to relax, learn to, stop fixating. So the opposite, again, of the hyper-awareness and the fixation, which leads to panic, would be just the relaxation, then the trust, and then the letting go. Because at some point, you really have to let go. And not just let go of the mind, but let go of control. Because you do kind of have to trust life, and you do kind of have to realize that you're on this roller coaster whether you want to be or not, and it will go up and it will go down, and the only thing that you can do is really let go so that you can actually enjoy the ride. If not, it's just a nightmare of an experience, basically. So I hope that was helpful, and please feel free to leave comments and ask questions, or to message me on Twitter. If you want to know more, if you want to share your experiences, I would definitely appreciate that. Have a good night.